The restaurant buzzed with life. Laughter echoed, glasses clinked, and soft background music mingled with the chatter. Twinkling golden fairy lights hung overhead, casting a cozy, warm glow across the long dining table where my coworkers and I gathered to celebrate tonight was supposed to be a milestone. My moment. Over the last 5 years, I had poured every ounce of effort into this company, staying late to fix issues no one else wanted to touch, mentoring the newer employees, even though it wasn't part of my job, always giving more than asked. For months, my boss Richard had dropped subtle hints that I was next in line for the senior manager role. And tonight, at this very party, my promotion was meant to be announced. I had pictured this moment endlessly. The applause, the pride, the validation. Adjusting the hem of my navy blue dress, I glanced around the table. The team was in high spirits, celebrating the company's quarterly success. At the head of the table, Richard stood, tapping his wine glass with a fork to grab everyone's attention. The room quieted down. My heart hammered with anticipation. "Tonight," he began, his deep voice cutting through the murmurs, "I want to take a moment to recognize someone truly exceptional. Someone who's shown remarkable dedication, drive, and talent in just a short time here." My smile faltered. It's rare to find someone who makes such an impact in only 3 months. Richard turned to my coworker, Lisa, the fresh hire. "Lisa, you've exceeded all our expectations. Your leadership, creativity, and problem-solving skills have impressed us all, which is why I'm thrilled to officially announce your promotion to senior manager. Congratulations." The room erupted in applause. I sat frozen, fingers clenched around my champagne glass stem. My throat tightened as I forced a smile. I joined in the clapping as Lisa stood, blushing and graciously accepting her new title. This can't be happening. My world tilted slightly as Richard turned toward me, like he suddenly remembered I was there. He smiled. "And of course, Kathy, you've been such a valuable member of the team," he said. "We appreciate everything you do." That was it. A hollow nod, a pat on the back after 5 years of dedication. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced my smile wider. "Of course, Lisa absolutely deserves it," I said, raising my glass in a toast. Richard nodded approvingly. "She already does a lot more than you, Kathy. You should take notes." Laughter broke out. Lisa giggled awkwardly, muttering, "Oh, I wouldn't say that." But the words lingered in the air, like a slap across my face. I laughed along with them. What else could I do? Cry? Beg? Demand to know why he'd toyed with me for months only to humiliate me? Instead, I lifted my glass to my lips and took a slow sip. As the night went on, I smiled, chatted, and joined in the celebration. But inside, a storm was gathering. When the party finally wound down and I stepped outside into the cool night air, I pulled out my phone. My fingers trembled slightly as I drafted a short, simple email to HR subject. Resignation. Letter, submission. Dear Richard, please find my official resignation letter attached. Effective immediately best. Kathy, I hesitated only briefly before hitting send. The moment the email left my outbox, I took a deep breath. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. But my story wasn't over yet. Monday morning, Richard was about to learn what happens when you underestimate the wrong person. The office felt different that morning as I walked through the front doors, a quiet satisfaction settling over me. My resignation letter was already waiting in Richard's inbox. He had no clue what was coming. At first glance, everything seemed normal. The receptionist greeted me with a bright smile. Coworkers chatted near the break room, coffee cups in hand. Lisa sat at her desk, still glowing from her big promotion. I wasn't angry at Lisa. She hadn't done anything wrong. The real problem was in the corner office. The man who had lied to my face for months, made me believe I mattered, then tossed me aside like I was nothing. I took my time getting settled, calmly placing my bag beside my desk and booting up my computer. Then, right on schedule, Richard's office door swung open. "Kathy, my office. Now." The entire floor fell silent. People exchanged nervous looks. No one had ever heard Richard sound so urgent, confused, desperate. I stood, smoothed my blouse, and walked inside. The door clicked shut behind me. Richard sat behind his desk, my resignation letter printed out in front of him. His eyes scanned my face as if trying to decide if this was some kind of joke. "You're leaving?" His voice was incredulous. "Yes." I sat down across from him, folding my hands calmly in my lap. "Effective immediately." "But why? This is so sudden. We didn't discuss this." I let out a soft laugh. "We didn't discuss Lisa's promotion either, but here we are." His jaw clenched tight. "Kathy, this wasn't personal. She simply outperformed you." "She's been here only 3 months," I said, tilting my head. "But sure, if that's what you want to believe." Richard leaned forward. "You know I appreciate you, right? You've been such an important part of this company for 5 years. I don't want to lose you." I stared at him a long moment, taking in the sheer audacity of his words. "You don't want to lose me," I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "But you had no problem overlooking me for a promotion I worked years to earn. You laughed while I was humiliated at my own celebration, and you told me to take notes from someone who just started." His smug confidence started to crack, running a hand through his hair. He said, "Look, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I should have handled this differently. But you're resigning out of nowhere. This isn't the right move, Kathy. You're letting emotions drive this," Richard said sharply. I smiled, but it was cold and empty. "I sent that email Friday night," I reminded him. "If this were just an emotional reaction, I would have stormed out then and there. But I didn't. This was planned. I'm leaving on my terms." His hand clenched into a fist on the desk. Losing wasn't something he was used to. "So, what's your plan now?" he asked, voice cutting sharper. "Go work for one of our competitors? Because, Kathy, don't forget, we have non-compete agreements." I laughed softly. "Oh, Richard, you have no idea." I stood up slowly. "I don't need to go to a competitor." I paused, savoring the moment. While you were busy overlooking my work, someone else wasn't. His brow furrowed. "What do you mean? Remember Andrew Carter, the CFO you pushed out last year?" Richard tensed visibly. Of course he remembered. Andrew was one of the company's top executives, but had clashed with Richard too many times. Richard forced him out, thinking Andrew was easily replaceable. "Andrew reached out to me a few months ago," I said, leaning in slightly and lowering my voice. "He's starting his own firm, and he wanted me to lead operations. Director level. I turned him down at first. I was loyal to this company. But then Friday night changed everything. I called him right after I left the party, and he made the offer again. This time, I accepted." Silence hung between us. Pure, raw shock. Richard stared, trying to process it all. "You're leaving for Andrew's company," he finally said, voice tight. "I start next Monday," I confirmed. He opened his mouth, then closed it, exhaling sharply. "Kathy, be reasonable. This company's been your home for 5 years. We can work something out. We can talk." "I don't want to talk," I interrupted smoothly. "This decision is final." His jaw clenched. "You won't be able to come back." I smiled, calm and sure. "I won't need to." Turning, I headed for the door just before stepping out. I paused and said over my shoulder, "It's funny how people only realize someone's value once they walk away." Then I left, closing the door behind me and leaving Richard alone with the consequences of his choices. And it felt incredible. When I stepped out, all eyes turned toward me. The open workspace fell eerily silent. The usual Monday morning buzz replaced by a thick tension. My coworkers weren't even pretending to work anymore. Heads peeked over cubicles. Eyes darted away the moment we made contact. Everyone knew something had happened. And soon, they'd know exactly what I returned to my desk with a calm serenity, opened my email, and forwarded my resignation letter to the entire leadership team. Subject: official resignation. Notice effective immediately. I am stepping down from my position at the company. It has been an experience I will never forget. Best, Kathy, simple professional. But the message beneath it was loud and clear. I was done. Within seconds, whispers started spreading across the floor. Then more, until it felt like wildfire. It didn't take long before someone approached me. "Kathy, is it true?" Rachel asked. She was one of the few people I truly trusted here. Her expression was stunned. I nodded, offering a small smile. "Yeah, it's time for me to move on." She exhaled sharply, shaking her head. "Wow, just wow, I get it. But I didn't think you'd actually leave." "Neither did Richard," I muttered. She let out a half laugh, half scoff. "Well, he's an idiot. Everyone knows you deserve that promotion." More coworkers began to drift toward my desk, pretending to be busy but clearly eavesdropping. Even Lisa peeked up from across the room, her eyes flicking between me and Richard's office. Unsure if she should feel guilty or relieved, I could sense her hesitation. She wanted to say something, but didn't. Honestly, I didn't care anymore. 10 minutes later, just as I was packing up my last personal things, my inbox pinged with an urgent meeting request from Richard's subject. Urgent. Let's talk meeting. 15 minutes location. My office. I stared at the email, then sighed. Desperate men do desperate things. I took my time walking back to his office. When I stepped inside, the door closed softly behind me. Richard looked different. No arrogance, no smugness. Instead, he looked like someone who just realized they'd made a very, very big mistake. "Kathy," he began, leaning forward, "let's talk about this. You're making a rash decision." I let out a soft laugh. "Richard, I gave 5 years of my life to this company. The only rash decision here was yours." His lips pressed into a tight line. "Look, I admit I mishandled the promotion, but we can fix this. I'll match whatever Andrew is offering you." I tilted my head. "You don't even know what Andrew offered me." "Does it matter?" He shot back. "We'll figure something out, better salary, more flexibility, maybe even—" I raised a hand, cutting him off. "You don't get it, do you?" Silence, I leaned in. It was never about money. It was about respect. His jaw tightened. "I don't want to stay somewhere where my work is ignored until I threaten to leave. I don't want to be matched only when I'm halfway out the door. If I wasn't valuable before, why would I believe I suddenly am now?" Richard's nostrils flared. Losing control of the conversation wasn't something he was used to. "Kathy, be reasonable. You're walking away from a stable job for what? Some startup that might never make it." I smiled. "That startup is led by someone who values me. I'd rather bet on myself than stay where I'm treated like I'm disposable." I stood. "Goodbye, Richard." With that, I walked out. The feeling of packing my last belongings was almost surreal. As I carried my box toward the elevator, a few coworkers gave quiet, respectful applause, a small recognition of my silent victory. They knew Lisa, still at her desk, finally found the courage to stand and approach me. "Kathy, I didn't know," she stammered. I raised an eyebrow. "Didn't know what?" Her mouth opened, then closed again. Of course she knew she may not have planned this, but she certainly benefited from my loss. "It's fine, Lisa," I said gently. "Enjoy the promotion." She flinched, but I was already stepping into the elevator. As the doors slid shut, I exhaled slowly. This wasn't just an ending. It was a beginning. The Monday after leaving Richard's office for the last time, I stood before a sleek glass building, Carter and Associates. Andrew's company was smaller than my old one, but it buzzed with energy and ambition. It was full of people building something real, not just maintaining a machine someone else had built. I stepped through the doors feeling a spark I hadn't felt in years. Excitement. No more being overlooked. No more undervalued. No more Richard. Riding the elevator up to the top floor, my reflection in the mirrored doors looked different, more confident, more alive. This wasn't just a new job. It was freedom. The moment I entered my new office, real floor-to-ceiling windows, a door I could close, I knew I'd made the right choice. The morning passed with introductions, meetings, and onboarding, but everything felt different here. People actually listened. During my first leadership meeting, Andrew smiled and said, "Kathy, I want you to lead our new initiative. We're restructuring operations, and with your experience, you're the perfect person." Just like that. No pleading, no constant proving myself. They already knew my value. I nodded, holding back the urge to look around and check if this was a test. "I'd love to," I said simply. A few colleagues smiled approvingly. Andrew nodded as if he'd expected no other answer. This was how it should be. No games, no politics, just respect. 2 days after I left, the first signs of trouble at Richard's company appeared. My phone buzzed with a message from Rachel. "Kathy, OMG. Richard's losing it. Since you left, everything's a mess." I smirked, but kept reading. He had to call an emergency meeting because no one knows how to handle half the stuff you used to do. Turns out Lisa doesn't actually do more than you. She's clueless. I laughed out loud. Of course. Richard had overestimated Lisa and underestimated me. Another message followed. "Oh, and get this. 3 clients have already called asking for you by name. They're unhappy you're gone." A rush of satisfaction flooded me. Richard had spent years taking me for granted, and now he was finally learning a lesson he should have learned long ago. Some people aren't replaceable. That afternoon, as I reviewed strategy documents in my new office, my assistant poked her head in. "Kathy, you have a call on line 1. It's Dawson and Company. They said they worked with you before and want to talk about moving their account." I blinked. Dawson and Company was one of my old company's biggest clients. "Put them through," I said, steady despite my pounding heart. Moments later, Mark Dawson's familiar voice came through. "Kathy," he said warmly, "I heard you moved to Carter and Associates. Let's talk." I leaned back, a slow smile spreading. "Of course, Mark. What can I do for you?" Within a week, 3 of my former company's largest clients had reached out, all with the same frustration. "Things aren't the same since you left. We don't feel secure anymore. If you're leading operations at Carter and Associates, we want to move." And one by one, they did. I wasn't stealing clients. I didn't have to. They left on their own because they trusted me, not the company I'd left behind. Meanwhile, Richard was scrambling. Rachel kept me updated. "Lisa's drowning. She's not ready for this role. I heard Richard yelling at leadership in a closed-door meeting this morning." Another message came in. "The board's furious over client losses. Investors aren't happy. Word is, they're pressuring Richard to fix things. Fast." I imagined the panic on his face, the regret. And the best part? I wasn't trying to hurt him. I was simply thriving somewhere else. That Friday afternoon, just as I was wrapping up for the day, my phone buzzed with an email from Richard. I raised an eyebrow and opened it. Subject: a proposal. "Kathy, I'd like to talk. I believe we can reach a mutually beneficial agreement. If you're open to it, let's meet next week to discuss options. Looking forward to your response. Richard." I leaned back, laughing softly. He was desperate. And for the first time in 5 years, I held all the power. I stared at the email a moment longer, letting the irony settle in. The man who dismissed me, laughed at my expense, and told me Lisa did more than I did was now reaching out. And I knew why. His world was falling apart. I took my time crafting my reply. No rush, no desperation, just calm control. Subject, a proposal. Richard, I'm available for a brief meeting Monday at 10 a.m. Let me know if that works. Best, Kathy. I hit send and closed my laptop. I wasn't entering that meeting to bargain. I was there just to watch him squirm. At exactly 10 a.m., I stepped into the glass office building I'd left behind a few weeks prior. Yet everything felt different now. The receptionist hesitated, caught between greeting me as a visitor or acknowledging me as a ghost from the past. As I walked past, employees stole quick, cautious glances. Everyone already knew. When I crossed into Richard's office, he was there, looking worn out, with dark circles framing his eyes and a jittery energy in the way his fingers tapped on the desk. He wasn't the same arrogant man who had belittled me just weeks earlier. "Thanks for coming," he said, forcing a strained smile. I took a seat, crossing my legs and resting my hands calmly in my lap. "Of course. What do you want to discuss?" He exhaled deeply, leaning in. "I won't take up much of your time. We need you back, Kathy." I stayed silent, letting the weight of his words settle heavily between us. "I underestimated how critical your role was," he admitted. "I'm willing to make amends. If you return, I'll offer you a generous raise, an executive title, and complete authority over your department." He leaned back, clearly expecting me to be impressed. I wasn't convinced. Tilting my head, I responded, "So, let me make sure I've got this straight. You had 5 years to see my worth, to promote me, to respect what I contributed, but instead, you chose to pass me over for someone with just 3 months' experience and told me to learn from them. And now, after you've lost important clients and watched your company unravel, suddenly you're offering me all the recognition I deserved from the start." Richard's jaw clenched tight. "Kathy, come on." I raised my hand to stop him. "Answer me this. If I hadn't left, would I be sitting here now? Would you have offered this out of genuine respect? Or is this all just desperation because you're losing control?" He stayed silent, his eyes betraying everything. He tried to mask it, but I saw the truth crystal clear. He never valued me until it cost him dearly. A small, amused laugh escaped me. "Thought so." Desperation crept into his voice. "Kathy, think this through. You've got a history here, a future. Do you really want to walk away from that?" I smiled, steady and sure. "Richard, you still don't understand, do you?" I stood, straightened my blazer, and leaned forward slightly. "I never needed you. You needed me, and now you're finally seeing it." His face darkened, but the flicker of panic in his eyes was unmistakable. I turned toward the door, pausing before stepping out. "You should take notes, Richard," I said quietly, mirroring his own words. "Maybe next time you'll learn to appreciate the people who actually keep your company alive." Then I left, and this time, I didn't look back. At Carter and Associates, things were booming. Our client list was nearly twice as large. More companies were fleeing Richard's failing business and choosing us instead. One quiet Friday afternoon, Rachel sent me an update that made me laugh aloud. Richard just got fired. The board forced him out. They couldn't handle all the client losses. I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment with a sip of coffee. Perfect. Richard thought I was replaceable. Turns out he was. And me? I was exactly where I was meant to be.